The world is a scary place. Whether it's school shootings or racial violence, many of us are scared like never before. There isn't a follower of Christ who has one time not struggled with what they know about God and the challenges that they often face. When our faith and our culture collide, fear overtakes us. While fear is designed by God and it's a wonderful protective blanket for us, it can also lead us astray. Fear can cause us to stand back when our courage should push us to take a stand. Our story begins with the breakdown of the government of the Persian Empire. Today we are in Daniel chapter 6. This was the largest empire in the world history at the time, and Daniel was chosen and promoted at the expense of others. In today's story, we see a number of high officials or government officials who feared losing their control to an outsider. That outsider was Daniel. Daniel's successes made the other officials fear losing the power they thought they had in the kingdom. It blinded them with anger and hatred towards him. Now, when we talk about Daniel, what do you think of? I think of courage. Where does real courage come from? How do you get courage when you need it? Some are born with personalities that scream confidence and go-getting attitudes. Yet, for most of us, confidence has to be developed over time. But courage is more than feeling good about ourselves. Let's define courage. The Oxford Dictionary defines courage as the ability to do something that frightens one, or the strength in the face of grief or pain. This is, look at me at Daniel's defiant prayer. This is Daniel. He became distinguished above all other high officials and satraps because of an excellent spirit that was within him, and the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. We need to look at and point out Daniel's consistent prayer habit. It would have been cool to listen to Daniel's prayers, the many of them that did ensue. Of all the spiritual disciplines a Christian does, prayer is the way that we directly communicate with God and build a relationship with him. Prayer is a sign of trust in God who has our lives in his control. Soon, Darius, who is the king at the time, issues a decree for there to be no prayer for 30 days. Let's look at Daniel's reaction. When Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house where he had windows in his upper chamber open toward Jerusalem. He got down on his knee 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as he had done previously. Daniel 6:10. Daniel prays the same place at the same hour in the same position and in the same spirit as he had done before. There was no change in his life. Daniel knew that if we were to stop praying, or he was to stop praying as was his habit, it would look like he was complying with the new decree. Note what Daniel didn't do. Many Christians would rationalize and say, so what if I pray in secret for the next 30 days? Daniel didn't look for a secret place to pray. He didn't skip his morning, noon, and night devotions. Daniel didn't pray with his window shut. He didn't adjust his prayers according to man. Daniel was a lion of a man. Daniel was a man of conviction and followed God with a passion. Do right and leave the consequences to God. I'm not talking about being obnoxious or being unkind. There are so many pressures on our lives to do what is easy and to not make God the priority. We have so many things that distract ourselves with, so we don't even see ourselves falling further and further away from God. The relationship that he so desperately wants with us, we're drifting away from. Yes, all of us become fearful and discouraged and frustrated, but you see, there was something different about Daniel. He had faith, and I ask here, as the last point, where did Daniel get his backbone? Where was his secret? Daniel's courage wasn't natural. Instead, it was supernatural. Courage is always produced by faith, and faith is in God, or confidence in God. Quote, he got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God. Daniel 6:10. He had faith in God because he personally knew God was alive. Daniel had confidence from above and gave thanks before his God. Daniel's faith was from above. He had faith in God for good reason. He never had lost, and God remains undefeated. This is the God that I will put my faith in, and this is the God that produces my courage.